Right, you join us here on Farlows for a 48-hour session. Actually set up in a swim, a couple of swims up from here. I was only in there for 2 hours, saw 5 fish show out in front of this area. And the chap there who was in this area was actually looking for a move. He didn't see any of them. He'd done a 6-night blank in there. So I've moved straight into the zone, got rods out. Just after first light this morning, we got this as a nice result. A not so typical Farlows fish, young stocky this one, 24 £4. But when the lake's been fishing tough, I don't think it's done a fish in over 48 hours now. It's a bit of a result, especially being December the 21st, we certainly can't moan, first day of winter and all that. And hopefully it's the first of a few more to come during the session. First fished Farlows about 8 years ago now, and I've probably done around about 20 sessions in those 8 years, on and off. Mostly through the winter. I've only fished here a couple of times during the summer months. It's a lovely complex, about 27, 28 acres, Lake One is. Got about 1,000 carp in it, I believe, maybe a few more. Now I've got a swan that's deciding to take out my lines, which is fantastic. Lots of bird life on here. There's a great stock of carp in here. Last winter alone, I did 4 sessions at 23 carp, 6 over 30, up to 37.12, a nice common called Tyson. And you can really get some sport on the right days. Like anywhere else, it can be tricky, can be moody, but other times, you can really have it off. Last year I had 9 fish in 8 hours on one particular session. So when they're in the mood, you really can give them a bit of a hiding. And yeah, so there's a good head of 30s in here now, and they keep growing. A few years ago, I'd only ever had 1 30 out of here, but the last 3 years, I think I've had a 30 most trips I've come. So if you can time it right, you really can catch a few. Usually, this sort of weather we've got now, low pressure, overcast, warm for December, it's 10 degrees, rain, usually perfect conditions, but for whatever reason, Farlows just isn't fishing particularly well at the minute. I believe it's probably because the maggot and caster ban that they brought in, about 2 weeks ago now. I think there's been a lot of fish out of maggots and casters, and I find that in winter, once they do turn to maggots and casters, they can be very difficult to get back onto bait. So that's probably why there's been a bit of a lull. But hopefully, I think it's a good thing by Farlows to ban it, because there was a lot of them starting to be put in here, there, and everywhere, and it could be bad for water quality, so you do want to keep an eye on things like that. It's a good management really by them, but it might mean that this winter might be a bit slow to start with, but in the long run I think it'll be a good move for the lake. I'm here filming with Prologic today, and I'm here with the cameraman as well, who's also fishing, as well as about 30 other anglers at the minute. And I think there's only myself who's had one and one other swim, which is having a few fish, which is obviously where the fish are congregated. I can't get any closer than what I am to them at the minute. That is the way on these kind of lakes. Farlows is a busy, busy lake. We got here and we managed to bucket a couple of good swims, 41 and 42 as people were leaving. So we jumped straight into those swims. And while we were setting up and chucking out a couple of singles for the early morning bite time, I noticed, I saw 5 fish show in about an hour period, but they were more in front of peg 43. So what I'd done was I went up to 43 and had a chat with a guy there who'd actually been fishing for 6 days. Said he hadn't, 6 days in this swim, two weeks in total. Said he hadn't seen a carp show in 2 weeks and hadn't caught one. Well, obviously I've just mentioned I've seen 5 show in front of me, but the bloke was asleep when I went to him. So I just go to show observation is key still. I mean, there was about 80 birds out there, so it's hard to tell when the fish are showing, but by keeping an eye out, I noticed those carp in amongst the fish, in amongst the birds, sorry, quite easily. And just by good observation, I spotted those fish. And when I went and had the chat with the bloke, he was looking for a move, so I said to him I'd be willing to swap with him, 43 to 41, which he jumped at the chance. So we swapped swims, and yeah, I caught one straight away and lost a couple of bream. And like I say, there's only one other swim on the lake that's produced anything for the last 72 hours, I think now. So a bit of a result really, and I've only had that result just by keeping an eye on the water and looking. If I hadn't seen those 5 fish show, I wouldn't have moved swims, and more than likely I wouldn't have caught any fish. The cameraman's in peg 42 next to me, and he hasn't had any finished fishing the same tactics as I am, and I just think it's a location thing. I think they're all held up out there in between the islands, and there's only peg 2 that's really catching, so there's not a lot you can do about that unless the fish want to spread out. You're not going to catch them, unfortunately, but my tactics obviously work to catch that one fish, and if there's a few scragglers scraggling about, I'm hoping I can nick another one before the session's over. This is a rig that I've had great success on, especially on Farlows last year. I was fishing it on the same spot as a couple of Roddy rigs, one on the deck and one on the pop-up, all 3 on the same spot. I actually had 6 of the 8 takes I got all came on this rig. Really, really simple, just a multi-D rig, just 2 loops in the end of a bit of fluorocarbon, and it's all about getting the right kinks in the right place. I use these tools to put through and pull them nice and straight. And I've actually got a bit of cork underneath the plastic there. The reason I'm using plastics on this rig, is because I want it to sit like that on the hook, real slow sinking and drop down. And if I'm using normal bait, after time, as the water gets into it, it will drop to the side, which is not what I want. I want it to be sat there ready, so as soon as the fish picks it up, they're instantly pricked. I've had many fish on this, including Scar out of Lynch Hill at £49. A bit different to the norm, just using a variation of a few different rigs and putting them together. And it's a rig that I've caught a lot of carp from, especially from Farlows. I'm going to talk you through the mix that I use on Farlows at the minute. They've recently banned casters and maggots, which I used to use quite a bit in the winter over here, but now that they're banned, I'll show you an alternative mix that I started to use instead. I'm using this buckwheat and tiger nuts that I prepared up last week, a couple of weeks ago. I've actually had it back in the freezer since then. Got it out of the freezer about 3 days before I come, allow it to defrost nicely. As you can see, it's lovely and gloopy. And I should just add, a couple of good handfuls into the mix. Not a lot, because I don't want a lot of food value out there really. Just 1 and 2, really getting some of this nice slimy slime getting into the bucket. Look at that, lovely. Right, next I'm going to add some boilicum that I prepared at home. What I've done, I nicked my old Deer's blender and blended up about 5 kilo boilie, put about 200ml of sweet liquid through it, which is about 2 days before I come, gives it time to really soak into the crumb. So again, I'm going to put another couple of handfuls in there, into the mix. And again, just absolutely oozes flavour this, dude. I can smell it from here. Really, really nice. What that will do, once I spom that out and mix it, it'll mix in with all the slime from the tigers, and it'll just create a massive cloud as the spom hits, and hopefully we'll draw some fish into the zone. Top of that, all I do is just get another tin of corn and mix it and put it right over the top, especially with all the liquids. The liquids go straight into the crumbs, so it helps soak it straight up. That's everything that I use in the mix. Now it's just about getting dirty and mixing the whole lot together. I thought you can use a spoon, but I thought you may as well just get your hand dirty and get it really mixed in there. And that is your finished mix. Really sloppy, really stinky, really cloudy, but hardly any real food value there. Perfect for this time of year. Lots of flavours, lots of smells, lots of cloud, brings them in on the area, but nothing really there to fill them up. And what I'll do, I'll put half a dozen spoms of this out, and then each time I get a fish or look at a bit of action, whether it be a bream or a carp, I should put another 3 spoms on top of it to keep it topped up constantly. Whatever time of night, whether that's midnight, 2 AM, as soon as I've had a bit of a take, another few spoms on top of it, keep the food going in, keep the fish feeding. We're on the second morning now, and we had a very quiet night last night for whatever reason. The condition were changing. It looked for the better, to be honest. We had a bit of a pressure drop. We had 14 degrees temperatures last night, and a load of rain came in just on dark. I'd seen fish out there just before dark, but I never saw a single fish last night, and I haven't seen anything yet this morning. It's 9 o'clock so far. Literally had a couple of bleeps all night, no real liners. It's a very, very quiet night. Whether it was the warm weather with the rain coming in, it might well have brought them up in the water, I don't know, but it seems very quiet all around the lake, everywhere going. But we had a take about this sort of time yesterday, maybe another half hour, so you never know, there might still be time for a take before bite time's over. Just thinking about doing a move. We've had a bit of a wander around, and swim that I've done really well in the past, peg 32, is free again. Could have come in here on Sunday, but I decided not to. I decided to go in the open water, but having not seen anything for 24 hours, I'm going very quiet. I've got a feeling some of them might have snuck down this way. Just keeping an eye on my phone on the weather app, and tonight on dark we've got a bit of a southerly coming in. It's been more southwesterly. Well, when the southerly blows, it does tend to come down this arm quite nicely. I've had some good hits in the rain and the wind down here, so I might take the gamble. It will be a big gamble, but it could be something that pays off, so I may well do it. I've got a bucket in position, so I'm thinking I'm probably going to do it. Take the risk. Sometimes you got to take these risks. It may pay off, it may not, but you've got to be in it to win it sometimes. I'm just having a bit of a lead about on a spot that I fished last year. Out the 2 trips I fished in this swim last year, I had 16 fish off one spot, one off another and one off another. So, you know, pretty obvious which spot I'm trying to look for. Last year, there was a tree that came out over here, which made it very difficult. You had to cast over it and put your rod out. The trees fell down now, which means a much better angle into it. And I'm actually going to fish both rods onto it, and maybe even all 3. I'm just having a bit of a lead just to see if there's room for all 3 to go on there. If there is, I'm going to put all 3 on the same spot. That would be the middle rod. As long as I can get a foot either side of that, then I'll put all 3 on there. Come back lovely and clean. Nice solid drop. Oh, that's lovely drop on there, so that's left. Yeah, nice. Oof. Lovely. Ah, it glides. Yeah, I think I've got room to get all 3 of my rods onto there. Reason I'm going to do this, we've got a channel through here, and yes, I have caught off other spots, but nothing like as many off that same spot. And I'd rather not have lines cutting across this channel, interrupting anything coming into this area. I'd rather get all 3 on that area, all my bait there, and just let them come through into that zone. And if that's where they like to pick up the bait, that's obviously a good feeding zone for them. I'll just put it all there and hope for the best, really. got my left rod out there on the spot. I'm trying to get all three really accurate. All three of them are literally 1, 2, 3 in a line. I've gone for 3 different types of rigs. I've gone with 2 fake corn bits on the other piece, on the other rig, which is on a multi-D rig. This is on a Ronnie on the deck with a corked out Tiger with a little fake corn on the top. And the third one, I'll show you on the third one. It's also very important to keep your lines apart as you're sinking them. I'll always pull my left slightly left, my middle one straight down the middle. When I put my right one out, I'll pull that slightly right, just to keep the lines slightly apart when they sink. The third rig is just a simple 12mm yellow pop-up on a Ronnie rig. I've even included a yellow kicker on here because on day ticket these sort of things can work a little bit of colour underneath might catch your eye. Unfortunately, another very quiet night last night. About 8 o'clock last night I had a tench which happened to take out all 3 rods, which I had to re-wrap and get them back out. If I'd had a carp, I don't think it'd have took out all 3 rods, it would have kited away from the zone. But unfortunately, being a tench, it stayed on the same line, it took out the other 2 lines. I got them all back out there perfect, and I was confident for more action to happen, but very quiet. I've just got the rods left now in. It's just about to rain again. It's done pretty much nothing but rain for 80% of the session. I'm muddy, I'm minging, I'm on my third hoodie because I'm just getting covered in mud, spod spill, the lot. It's not been the greatest session. It's been great conditions and you'd have expected a few fish to come out, but unfortunately, only Peg 2 has done anything in the time that we've been here. And with me, I've managed to nick 1 and with at least 25 anglers on each night, you know, I'm pretty happy really, as well as, you know, although I've had a couple of bream and a tench, they're not what I wanted, but nobody else in the lake has had anything. So it just goes to show that my mix was able to pull in fish and nick that extra bite, which, you know, when the lake's fishing tough, it's a result really. You know, the other 25 guys that have gone home with a blank would have been very happy with what I've had. So, you know, you just got to take what you can get at times and move on to the next session. I'll be back another time and, you know, on another day, I might have 10 fish. Today, it's been tricky. But until next time, I'll see you again.